Hi, love. So today we are talking about the second video in our How to Love Yourself series. And if you're just joining us for the series, we're talking about the specific ways that specific things that you can do to love yourself more. You know, a lot of times people say that, it's really about loving yourself before you can love someone else. And that's true, but people don't really explain to you how to do that, right? So that's what we're really going to talk about today, because you really have to fill yourself up so that you can give out to people from that. It's important for you to feed yourself first, or you don't have anything to give. You can only give what you have. And if you don't love yourself and you're really motivated by insecurities and things like that, then it's very difficult to have a loving relationship with someone else. You can never fill someone up if you don't have anything to give, and they can never fill you up if you have that hole of feeling like you don't love yourself. One of the pioneers in this field is Louise Hay. She's a metaphysical teacher who has been teaching a lot of these concepts for years and years and years, so I would recommend that you go check out her work. But what we're going to talk about today is the second step in how to love yourself. The first step, the last video, was to stop criticizing yourself. So if you haven't checked that out, you can see the link for that below if you're checking this out on the blog. Otherwise, you can look up how to stop criticizing yourself and you'll see it there. So today we're talking about step number 2. Step number 2 is to stop scaring yourself. So if you are the type of person who tends to make a situation worse than it really is, if you're the type of person who stays up all night worrying about a situation getting worse and worse and worse when it hasn't really gotten that far yet, if you're the type of person who hears, that there are cutbacks at work and immediately thinks that you're losing your job, or if you've had the thought before, like somebody doesn't call you and you just think, oh my gosh, that means that nobody's ever going to love me again. If you have those thoughts, I don't want you to be hard on yourself at all, because everybody has those thoughts from time to time. We all tend to kind of make a mountain out of a molehill sometimes. But it's really crucial to recognize when you're having that thought, get a hold of it and turn it around, because it's very quick. It can happen very quickly that those thoughts just build up a momentum of their own and just really run away from you. So number 2 in our series is to stop scaring yourself. One of the ways that you can do that is by realizing that most of the things that you're afraid of happening never actually happen, right? They usually don't happen. You're really scared of them happening, but then they don't end up happening. The other thing to do is to think of it, you realize that when you have a thought like that that's recurring, every thought that you think and everything that you say has its own energetic vibration that you're sending out into the world. And in the energy healing and love coaching work that I do with my clients, we see how this plays out in their life and their relationships. When you say things, you speak your word, and it creates an energetic resonance that either draws things or repels something. So when you have these frightening thoughts and you give them a lot of power, it can be very detrimental to you, because you can actually create things in your life that you're scared of, and then you think, oh, I was right to be afraid of that thing. But really what you're doing is that you're creating this negative belief, and then the negative belief is creating self-validating evidence. And then you're saying, oh, that must be true. So recognize that everything you do and say is a type of an affirmation. And instead of giving those thoughts power, you can do this. You can say to that thought, this is a wonderful, helpful suggestion that comes from Louise Hay and from her work. She suggests that instead you say to that thought, thank you for sharing, and you let it go. Because you don't really want to fight against the thought. That gives it a lot of power. You want to recognize that the thought is negative, that it's not serving you. You want to say thank you for sharing, and you release that thought. Now the next thing that you do, and this is not something from Louise Hay, this is something that I know works for me and my clients very, very well. You can't actually make your mind completely blank. You're always going to be thinking about something. So the best thing for you to do when you've released that thought, when you let it go, is to choose a new thought as an anchor. And it's really great for you if you can do this ahead of time, because when you're in the moment, it's hard to scramble around for a new thought. So what I recommend that people do, instead of just saying, I'm not going to think about the bad stuff, I'm not going to think about the bad stuff, is you recognize that the bad thing is going to create something if you give it too much power. So you bring your power back by saying, thank you for sharing, thank you for trying to keep me safe, I'm going to handle things differently now, and releasing it. And then you replace it with a new truth. So one thing you can do is, right now, you can make a list of the things that you know that are true in your life. They can be things that you appreciate about yourself. They can be things that you're grateful for in your life. You can say something like, you can have a list, and at the top of it you can say, these are my truths. And you can say, I live in a wonderful home. You can say, I have great health. You can say, I love my family. All of these different things, write down everything good and true that you can think of for your life. And whenever you start to have these fears and these other thoughts, rather than putting your faith in that fear, choose out of love for yourself. And go back to your list of the things that you appreciate about yourself and your life. And let your attention and let your energy and let your focus be there. Now, when I say that, I'm not advocating that you just like bury your head in the sand like an ostrich and something bad's coming down the road and you're just like, I love my house, I love my health, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying even if a situation is negative, even if a negative situation is coming, or even if you're in the middle of a negative situation, thinking scary thoughts to yourself isn't going to make it better. It just takes a situation that's already negative and makes it horrible and unbearable. And it takes a situation that might not be negative and might turn it into negative. So that's what I'm saying. So those are the things that I want you to think about today. So number one is to stop scaring yourself and making a situation worse than it is or worse than it needs to be. And you do that by recognizing that those kinds of negative thoughts are affirmations and that you can create self-validating evidence from them. And you really want to break that cycle. The next thing that you do is you make your list of your truths. So these are truths in your life. They can be things you're grateful for. They can just be things that you love about your life. Write those things down. And when you have that fear thought that comes up, you say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I'm going to do things differently now. And you shift your attention to the truths in your life. And it's really about putting your faith in love instead of putting your faith in fear. When you're focused on your fearful thoughts, you have a lot of faith in fear. You put your faith in fear that those things are going to come into being. And what I want you to do instead is put your faith in love, in the love that you can create for yourself, in the fact that you are loved and supported in the universe. I want you to shift your attention to that, because where you put your attention is what grows and thrives and prospers in your life. So love, that is your number 2 tip for how to love yourself. And I'll see you next time with tip number 3. Take care.